Really both, because today's the last day of summer.
The race is off.
But the race is going to be on Monday.
Yep. It's been a summer.
It's been a summer.
It's been the fastest summer of my life. It's the first summer I've had since I was in college.
Yeah.
And I spent most of it unpacking.
Boom. You all settled in?
No.
No.
No, because now we're both at work. So it's kind of hard for.
Does throw.
I don't want to put anything up, like posters and stuff like that. I just don't want to put anything up without consulting.
Yeah.
You know.
That is the one benefit of being single. I don't have to ask permission to do anything.
Yeah. Still got to ask permission from me.
Well, depending on what it is. Are you trying to stab yourself with the bottle opener?
I keep thinking about Monday.
Yeah. Do we need to put you on suicide watch there, Beau?
Nah, it's okay.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair.
Usually
the first week of an ISS teacher is usually pretty quiet.
I'm hoping for it.
I would say the first 2 weeks. Although, to be fair. With our new cell phone policy, he may be quickly inundated.
That's what I'm afraid
Although, I think the first offense is just a lunch detention. You don't handle those. You don't handle those this year.
No.
Boom.
I do not. Anyway, welcome to Once Upon a Tome.
We're already getting into it.
We're back, baby.
It's the shortest cold open ever.
Yeah, because we got stuff to talk about.
Okay.
I guess.
Yeah.
Third time's a charm. We've been trying to do this episode 3 times this summer. Once at the beginning, and then a little bit way down, a few weeks in, and now on our last day.
So for all 2 of our diehard fans out there, we have not neglected you all summer. We tried to do an episode halfway through Swann's Way that we actually recorded. Sometime in mid-June maybe?
Yeah.
Yeah. And come to find out, it didn't record. Bad card.
Well, it recorded. It just stopped after an hour and 10 minutes.
I forgot about that. Yeah. So we re-recorded a few weeks later. I think it was a wonderful episode.
Yeah. And then I went to go edit it, and the card malfunctioned, and it became corrupted. And that had never happened to me ever before in my years of working with stuff like that. That has never happened. So I don't know what I did wrong. But
you know what? If we're able to,
I take the L on that one.
If we're able to recover that at some point, we'll post it kind of like as a B-side.
We will never find it.
Yeah.
Guaranteed.
So all in all, this episode is going to be all about Swann's Way. I think we're going to, going forward with the subsequent works, we're going to try to do about 2 per volume, but with this one, due to technical difficulties, it's just going to have to be 1.
Yeah, and I'm not too bugged about that. There's not much I have to say.
But you know who does have a lot to say?
You. Or Marcel
Proust.
Proust.
Yes.
Let's wait off on that.
Do you not have any notes on you?
No, I remember everything that that I said before.
Oh, really?
And
okay.
I know that there's talking points that you're gonna start.
Let's kind of riff off each other.
I'm gonna riff off it. One of them I'm very excited for is the importance of the artist.
Boom.
Yep. There's a little teaser for you.
Yeah.
Tickle those ivories in you.
Tickle the ivories. Well, I try to play piano.
My mom was a really good pianist. She did.
And by try, I just mean push down random keys.
I can do the thing with the knuckles where you go. Yep, I can do that.
Just like that.
Yeah, and then go. Dun, 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 dun.
Tell you what, though, I do know how to play octaves, just because.
Because you were in band.
No, I was in orchestra. There was a difference.
God, you South County people.
I'm not South County, West County.
West County people.
What am I supposed to do? We had a band and we had an orchestra. I was an orchestra.
I wasn't a band geek. I was an orc dork.
Yeah, we had 2 separate musical departments. I'm sorry St. Charles hasn't gotten around to including orchestras in their high schools.
Only in the Lou you can divided band into 2 separate things.
No, I mean, that's literally what it was. We had a band director and an orchestra director. I'm not like full of myself because of that. Like it was literally 2 different classes. We all were made to play violin in the 4th grade.
Wow.
And then come 6th grade, well 5th grade was optional. And then 6th grade, you had the option of joining the band or joining the orchestra. You couldn't do both.
You know, when I was in 4th grade, we had to do a famous Missourian report. And
You tried to do yourself.
No, I wanted to do Miles Davis, but then some scrub took it from me.
He's from Missouri?
He's from East St. Louis, but for some reason we could count it, which I thought was kind of stupid. But anyway.
Do you know East St. Louis actually used to be a really up-and-coming place?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm talking like back in like
pretty
20s.
Sad how it's turned out.
Yeah.
It's a topic for another debate.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yeah.
So I was going down the list, and I found a man named Count Basie.
Ooh.
And I picked him because I thought that he was a vampire. Little did I know that he was one of the world's greatest jazz pianists, and I fell in love. So at 10 years old.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So even though I'm not a jazz fan, you'll be proud of me for this.
Yeah, because I'm a big jazz fan.
I know. That's not the reason, though.
Okay.
I once picked up probably one of the seminal jazz albums of all time back when I was in college.
You almost?
No, I did.
Oh. Which one was it?
Frank Sinatra, Live at the Sands with Count Basie.
Nice.
Are you familiar with that?
Yeah, because I like a lot of the collaborations that they did together.
Fly me to the moon.
It's probably when he was like a little off tempo a bit because he's getting older. There's a certain point in his career where Frank Sinatra's just missing cues. It's kind of sad. But anyway, there's a really good song they did together called Pennies from Heaven, like their version of it. Mm-hmm. It's very swinging. I love it. I don't know. I just like the way that he carries a melody.
Yeah.
Talking about Count Basie now.
I had to analyze Watermelon Man by Herbie Hancock in my musical history class.
That's not Watermelon Man, is it?
I don't know.
It's off that same album, though. Love Herbie Hancock.
I just know for that class, we had to do a survey of like various styles of music, and we had to go in the community and listen to some type of music we'd never heard before. And I chose like some like Middle Eastern thing, and I went to like it wasn't a club, it was like a restaurant or something. And they didn't start for like freaking 2 or 3 hours after I was there.
Those jerks.
Yeah. But I do remember the waiter kept coming up to me and asking if I wanted something to drink, and I kept saying no, and that was a poor move on my part. Now that I'm a server, I realize you do need to respect their time.
Yeah, you do. But that's fine.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Live and learn.
Yeah. Anyway.
Shall we get into this?
You should do the updates.
Yes. So, currently, we're still a DIY podcast, so we do not have any emails. No Twitter messages. No YouTube comments.
That's fine.
Do we have any Instagram messages?
Yeah. I'm talking to a couple of people.
Yeah.
Always talking to
Makes
Myers.
it sound like you're dating people.
Yeah, no.
I'm talking to them.
I have a few book dates. No, shout out to the Ghastly Flop. I think he's based somewhere around us. Yeah. Anyway, I just keep noticing he's going to places that we've been to, or he talks about certain places in St. Louis. Cool dude. Great stuff.
We need to get to the protagonist in Soulard.
Yes, we do. Anyway, yeah, I'm always got people hitting me up on the Insta. It's fun. I'm usually really excited when I talk to them because I don't want to seem standoffish. Mm-hmm. But then I realize how many exclamation points I put in things, and it just sounds like I'm just constantly yelling at them.
Yeah, you do use a lot of exclamation points.
Yeah, you should see how my sister texts. It's exclamation point, question mark, exclamation point, and it's a whole line of that.
It's an interesting phenomena. Like how we kind of when we're communicating with somebody consistently for through any specific medium, we start to adopt kind of the punctuation and cadence of that person. Historically I haven't been anyone to use emojis or exclamation points, but ever since we've been friends, since you use a lot of them, I've started using a lot of them.
I love emojis.
You know what?
They're like my favorite thing.
I do love a good emoji. I only use a few of them though, because they can be overdone.
My favorite one is just the laughing out loud one.
Can we get that impression again? Yeah. If you're just listening to this, Beau made a face like he was constipated to mimic the laughing emoji, where he's laughing so hard the tears are coming out of both his eyes.
Oh, we're over-explaining just like our boy Marcel.
Yes, but we have 870 downloads.
Darn right.
As of today. So what we before I continue on, who just started following us the other day that you texted me about?
That was the other day?
I mean, by the other day, like in the last couple weeks.
Talking about KDHX?
KDHX!
Our favorite radio station in St. Louis area.
KDHX, the home of the independent music station.
Yeah, I really love that station a lot.
Yeah. Do you have one of their bumper stickers?
No, I really want one. Hey, send me one there my way, please. I'll give you my address and everything. Give me like 5 bumper stickers. Yeah. Or better yet, let me host.
Ooh.
I would have the sounds of St. Chuck. And I would play you grassroots Americana hits that you could probably find in the most wokest of areas of St. Charles.
Well, I kind of think it'd be more like St. Louis folks who are trying to be hip would listen to the super hip underground country that would emanate from St. Charles.
Yeah.
Because they're trying to be hip.
I take that as a personal slight against my character. Anyway, yeah, I was so happy when I saw that because I was like, God, this is like St. Louis royalty right here. Love KDHX.
Speaking of independent music stations, that reminds me, when I was a senior in high school, my history teacher, Mr. Cloveter, hope you're listening. I doubt you are, but if you are, congratulations. He told us I guess 1 hour a week, he hosted like a music show on like independent radio. And so like I listened to it at home once, and he played, a bunch of Modest Mouse and all that.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love Modest Mouse.
That was like at the peak of Modest Mouse when they were hit their height kind of, well, I shouldn't say hit their height, hit their mainstream height. So
it was like Float On, stuff like that?
I think so. I never really got into them, but I think it was their album that was at a blue cover.
Oh, that's that's this one after it. It has Dashboard, Missed the Boat.
Yeah.
My favorite one is The Moon in Antarctica. I think that's a perfect record.
Really?
It really also just gets my mind going about existential themes.
Okay.
Once you get to Life Like Weeds, Niagara Falls.
Like you start crying during it?
Yeah.
Okay.
You ever see Scrooged? Niagara Falls, Frankie Angel.
I know who Scrooge is.
With Bill Murray?
I was thinking like the Charles Dickens Christmas
favorite
Carol.
Christmas movie. Anyway, let's continue.
Yep. So as we get going, make sure you like and subscribe, rate, and write into us. So on both Twitter and Instagram, we are at OnceUponATome22. If you want to email us, we'll send you some merch. OnceUponATome22 at Gmail. Make sure you do type in tome, not time. Because I have had that issue before.
Yeah, we're not
freaking autocorrect.
We're not affiliated with the ABC original show, Once Upon a Time.
No.
Nor do we want to be.
Yeah. So before we get to first impressions of the novel, can I start out with something on a lighter note?
Have we been not on a lighter note at all?
Well, I mean, Swann's Way is a very serious novel. So
yeah.
We're going to be serious.
Yeah.
Talk about deep things.
Yeah.
Like deep into the earth things.
Mm-hmm.
Like caverns, wells,
caves,
bottom of the ocean floor.
Oh, don't. You're gonna channel my phobia. Start thinking about the abyss.
Yeah, about Ocean Gate.
Keep going.
So, you saw Barbie, right?
Love Barbie.
Oh, I loved it. Anyways, there was a reference in there.
I was hoping you were going to say this, yes.
about a Proust Barbie, and I loved it so much. Shout out to Greta Gerwig. But anyways, So I did a quick Google search about this Proust Barbie, hoping to find a picture of it. I mean, granted, I knew it was completely fictional Barbie, but this article said, quote, Greta Gerwig spoke about this specific scene in Barbie with AP News, sharing why she added a reference to French novelist Marcel Proust. Gerwig explained that in Swann's Way, the first volume of the novel In Search of Lost Time, the narrator is thrown back into his childhood through the taste of a Madeleine dipped in tea. Stereotypical Barbie had a similar experience of involuntary memory when she entered the box, which Gerwig seized to make a joke about the many failed Barbie dolls that have been made over the years.
Yeah. I love it.
So when they said that, I was like, I love you.
I laughed so hard.
Yeah.
I think I was like, what the heck? Anyway.
That was like the last comedy I've seen in theaters. Or actually, the first one in a while that I've laughed consistently from beginning to end. Because usually with comedies, there's like a section, the beginning that's pretty funny, and then the end for sure, then kind of maybe a little bit here and there. But there's always like 30, 40 minutes where it's like, all right, this is stupid. Right. But with Barbie, it was well written, and there were jokes consistently throughout.
I agree. And the performances were all great.
Oh
they were exactly what they needed to be. But
yeah.
I was going to say,
yes.
So as a good segue for us, this in my mind, I was thinking about this like immediately after I saw the movie. Mm-hmm. Just like Barbie, let us now have our own Proustian moment.
Oh, and you know how we're going to do that?
Having a good old Topo Chico.
Having a good old Topo Chico, the unofficial sponsor.
You ready?
Of Once Upon a Tome. Topo Chico representatives out there, or Mr. Topo Chico if it's a name, can you please sponsor us? Oh my gosh. We need to get that on video. Beau just successfully opened his bottle of Topo Chico.
Yeah, take that, haters. The one critique we have is that I can't open a bottle. Nice. That sounded good in my ears.
Hopefully that recorded. But no, let's get into this. So, Beau.
Yep.
Let's just begin with our first impressions of Proust, his style, Swann's Way. What do you think? Big picture overall, 30,000-foot view.
I can hear people rolling in their graves at this moment. And I can also hear books being thrown across the room. And I can also hear something along the lines of, that bleeping mother bleeper. How can he be so cynical and closed about this? But I was thoroughly disappointed.
Okay.
That I will say that the second part was incredibly beautiful and devastating, and I did enjoy that.
Now, by second part, you mean the second out of the
Swann
three?
in Love.
Okay.
Yeah. But the rest of it, I was like, wow. I think people only talk about Swann's Way is because they probably couldn't get through Swann's Way, but they don't want to act like they've never read it. You know, they want to impress people, so they talk about it. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I'm really hoping that the rest of it is better because I was just, wow, this is a slog.
I'm a little confused about your analysis because you said you loved the second part, which was the largest part of the novel. But overall, it seems like you didn't like it.
I have an affinity for unrequited love stories and tragic, I don't know, tales of tragic love. I am a sucker for all that like that kind of trope. And I found Swann the most fleshed out and nuanced character. Mm-hmm. And I thought that the beginning part of going on about the geographical locations of his hometown, so mundane and pointless. And the narrator, his omniscience to me was just like, why? Why do I care about? Who is this guy? Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know. It was just so boring. So the fact that I got to get through 200 pages of this in order to get to the good stuff, I was like, oh my God.
Mm.
I don't know, but also I felt like I just reached through a gate. Like I was just going through a garden door, a gated door to a garden. And then once I finally broke through, I could see the lilies of the and the roses or whatever.
Yeah, no, I got you.
Poinsettias,
lilacs,
marigold,
orchids. But yeah, no, I mean he's definitely wordy.
So wordy, unnecessarily so.
But I will say, one of the things we know about Proust is he's all about perception. And I think in one sense, his writing is meant to imitate our thoughts. Mm-hmm. And so this wordiness is meant to, this is the thought I had, the wordiness is meant to replicate thoughts when they come in. Because whenever we're thinking about something, we have a zillion thoughts all at once. So naturally, when you read it out loud, it's going to sound kind of awkward.
Oh, yeah, I get that. I see what you're saying. But, I mean, I guess because he's like a progenitor of the stream of consciousness movement, so it wasn't perfected at that point. But later on, like the people who came after him, like Virginia Woolf, I thought and still think they do it far much better. And I think it's just because they allow themselves to have precise prose, where they're achieving the same effect, but there are no wasted words.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like a lot of the time, Proust goes between like, oh, yes, exactly, clear, distinct, and then rambling on and on about nonsense. And then you reach the end, and it's like a paragraph that runs for like 5 pages, and then, or a sentence that runs for 2 pages, and you have to go back and be like, what was the point of this? There was no payoff. In this, in that specific time.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm sure too, like, we still have 6 volumes to go through with this. So,
yeah,
it could be really good or bad for you. But
I really hope
we're committed, right?
Oh, I'm 100%.
I mean, I'm committed.
I'm a completionist.
Okay.
It will be a weird itch in my brain for the rest of my life if I just give up.
And honestly, at the end of it, in a year or so when we finish, we may not like it, but we can say we've read it, we're familiar with it, we can talk about it. Because regardless of if we like it or not, which for the record, I mostly like it. I think it's pretty good. It's a very influential work.
Absolutely.
And I think that's even more so than us enjoying it. A more important thing is that it is influential.
Yes.
And it's referenced a lot. And for us to be able to talk about that and give a reason why we like or dislike it is even more important.
Yeah, and I want to make clear that if I become too negative in this little review here, it's simply because like every respectable book reviewer or anyone's opinion that I value totes this thing as the epoch of sophisticated highbrow literature, and everyone has nothing but good things to say about it. So the hype for me was just unnecessarily huge, and so I kind of want to just add another view on it that I respect Proust and I respect the book. 10 out of 10, no, in terms of its themes and its analysis of perception, the world around him, memory, that stuff, that's a 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
But going through it,
And
we don't know.
This is our third one. At first we did Infinite Jest, then we did The Recognitions, now we're on In Search of Lost Time. We don't know how it's going to turn out. Like Infinite Jest, The Recognitions, there were parts we loved, parts we hated. This is just the first part of 7.
You ever have did you ever get that like fake sand? It was like sand and Play-Doh as a kid. You ever play with that?
Yeah, I played with Play-Doh. I'm not sure.
No. Where there was just like packed sand type stuff.
Yeah.
Where it wasn't, it didn't just fall apart immediately, but you could pack it around. But if you put it in your mouth, it would start to flow out.
Okay.
That is like me consuming Proust, where some of it sticks with me, but the rest of it is just like I don't.
Yeah.
Where are we right now?
Okay. Well, what do you say we just kind of give a brief summary of the book and then just kind of go through some quotes and themes we have?
Go for it.
So I will start. So basically, this is Proust, essentially an autobiography. But the narrator, we think he's what, 7, 8 in this, 6, 7, 8, 9.
I mean, when he first starts out, but then
Yeah.
he's, I don't know. It goes.
I think even towards the end, it's just
no. When he's at the end, and even when he's remembering. It's a remembrance of a remembrance.
yeah.
Like, he's older, thinking back to when he was 7, and then when he's 7, he's thinking back to a certain point in time.
Yeah.
It's like Inception.
But yeah, so he's recalling moments in his youth through involuntary memory. So that's Proust's big thing, involuntary memory. And he's most known for, really out of everything he's ever written, is the Madeleine incident. So this takes place in like the first part of this book. So there's 3 parts. I think the first one's what, like 90 pages. Second one's like 200, and the last one's
I
130.
think it was more than 90 pages. I think we were well into the 100 mark in the first part. But yeah, I get.
But so in a nutshell, basically, as a kid, I think he's outside, and he dips a Madeleine cookie in tea, and instantly his mind is like free from reality, and he delves into philosophical self-reflection. So I have a quote from this. So the last time we tried to record, I read an extremely long quote, but I was able to shorten the quote. So because it's so important, I'm going to read it. You ready for this, Beau?
Yep.
So this is going to give the audience a good idea of this involuntary memory. It says, quote, "One day in winter, as I came home, my mother, seeing that I was cold, offered me some tea, a thing I did not ordinarily take. I declined at first, and then for no particular reason changed my mind. She sent out for one of those short, plump little cakes called Petite Madeleines, which look as though they had been molded in the fluted scallop of a pilgrim's shell. And soon, mechanically, weary after a dull day with the prospect of a depressing morrow, I raised to my lips a spoonful of the tea in which I had soaked a morsel of the cake. No sooner had the warm liquid and the crumbs with it touched my palate than a shudder ran through my whole body, and I stopped, intent upon the extraordinary changes that were taking place. An exquisite pleasure had invaded my senses, but individual, detached, with no suggestion of its origin. And at once the vicissitudes of life had become indifferent to me, its disasters innocuous, its brevity illusory, this new sensation having had on me the effect which love has of filling me with precious essence. Or rather, this essence was not in me, it was myself. I had ceased now to feel mediocre, accidental, mortal. Whence could it have come to me, this all-powerful joy? I was conscious that it was connected with the taste of tea and cake, but that it infinitely transcended those savors, could not be of the same nature as theirs. Whence did it come? Whence did it signify? How could I seize upon and define it?" End quote.
Yep, that's it.
So I would also say, too, that is absolutely beautiful writing.
Yeah, I mean, no one could write like that. That is precise, just technical writing. I like it.
Yeah, and that's one of the themes of
That
really
is a master at work.
Yeah, it's really what
like
the big theme of essentially his entire In Search of Lost Time series is little sensual things, sensual meaning, textures, smells, tastes that trigger memories deep in our brain that have not been there for a while.
Yeah, the Proustian effect, as we've talked about before in our preview episode of Proust. I mean, it's like a whole psychological study now of, sensory overload where it just triggers these deep, fond memories for you, everyone talks about the Madeleine quote. Rightfully so. I want to know why no one warned me that the narrator has a fascination with eating asparagus simply because of the, quote, perfume that comes after of eating asparagus. Why no one talks about that quote is beyond me.
Yeah.
But I remember that one far more than I remember the Madeleine quote. I think maybe because it was humorous, and everybody talks about the cookie. Yeah. But no one's talking about him liking the smell of his own pee. No one.
No.
Gross.
Do you like asparagus?
Oh, I love asparagus.
Yeah.
It's my favorite. But I like it charred. You stick it in the oven for like an hour. Drizzle some olive oil on it with some like pepper or salt.
Mm-hmm.
Take it out and it's crunchy like a fry. Or if you're really, really adventurous, you wrap it in prosciutto and then put it in there.
Sounds like a lot of work.
It's not.
Yeah.
I love it.
Tell you what, though, after coming back from Europe, I'm going to make a more concerted attempt to be better with my food, give it a little more taste, be a little more adventurous with it.
As you should.
I pretty much eat the same thing every night, and it's rather bland. But yeah. I'm gonna give it a shot. I have a crock pot, you know.
Oh my God! Look at you.
Look at me. But yeah, so that's essentially, I would say, the biggest theme, at least from what I've read of Proust, and that is emblematic of it, or at least the most popular incident of it.
God, why are there so many people in this building still?
Did you just give away our location?
I mean, but you can hear the bell ringing behind us.
That is very true. You ready for some more quotes? You got something you want to add to that?
No, I was reading through some quotes myself. There was a section in there before we get started, around 260 to 270.
We're already started, buddy. We started like half an hour ago.
You know what I mean. 267 maybe 270, like all around, like around that area. There were some beautifully heartbreaking quotes about Swann and his paranoia, impossible love for
Odette. Swann was a player, though,
and it just broke my heart because then I realized, wow, I have felt this exact thing. I am by no means able to articulate it as beautifully as this, but man, I felt so guilty. Yeah. Some of these things I was like, wow, I feel attacked. Yeah. I'm shook now.
But to be fair, Swann was a player for a brief moment.
Yeah, man, that's the way that he was society was.
He was double dipping for a little while.
Yeah, you have your girlfriend, you get a mistress.
Or side piece, whatever we call it.
We call it mistress. This is just more respectful. Oh, man. Yeah, dude. What a guy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Swann is an interesting character. He's a great literary figure. A man who lives in a certain part of their caste society. He's of the richer end, and yet he's unpretentious with his tastes. In fact, he scoffs at people who, act better than they are. And when he starts hanging out with Odette, who are they? What was their name?
The Vintouls?
Oh, yeah, the Ventiers or whatever.
I don't know how you pronounce it. Vintoul or Vintule or...
Either way, they're like two of the most annoying people ever. And they're, like, I guess, below. In terms of the class structure, they're below him, but they act like they're superior to him simply because he just seems weak to them. Mm-hmm. Or he represents a part of society that, undermines their way of life. Yet Swann is kind of even above that. Like he can't help, like he says, he can't help that he was born that way. Mm-hmm. All he can do is try and understand the world that surrounds him. And then the end of where he pretty much says, like, why did I ever think I could love someone like that below me? Oh, it's like devastating. Yeah. Oh my!
Yeah, because in the middle
breaks, it yearns.
The middle part, Swann in love.
Oh, it's so. Take the first part out. Just start with Swann in love. It's like one of the greatest things that you've ever read.
Yeah, but I mean, I guess what I'm getting at is, you see the arc and trajectory of a relationship. Like you see it grow, and then you see it dissolve.
Absolutely, and they hint at it in the first part, and they really do think lowly of Madame Swann. Yeah. I mean, even the narrator's whole family, his aunt and all that, looked down upon her. So when it came, when the twist, or not, it's not really a twist, but when you find out who he actually married, you're like, whoa, what? So all these things happen in this part, and then we don't get the reconciliation?
You know what?
But then you realize you're in the view of the narrator, and the narrator only knows so much of what he's told.
Yeah. You know what? I mean, I can't speculate. I guess I could speculate. Maybe Proust did that just because just to say that's life. Things
Just
don't.
like Frank Sinatra. That's life.
I don't know that song.
Yes, you do. Everyone knows that song.
Is it "Fly Me to the Moon"?
No, That's Life.
Oh,
They do it in Joker.
okay. I'll have to listen to it.
Here we go. A little tap at the window as though some missile had struck it, followed by a plentiful falling sound as light, though, as if a shower of sand were being sprinkled from a window overhead. Then the fall spread, took on an order, a rhythm, became liquid, loud, drumming, musical, innumerable, universal. It was the rain.
It's good.
I love it. That's a really good one. What about... Nah, that's a long one. I'm not going to read that. Nah. Or, well, I mean, we'll do the short one. People don't know when they are happy. They're never so unhappy as they think they are. I think about that. That quote comes back a lot because I think we live in a... Why are there so many bells? There is an epidemic, a pandemic, in terms of boredom. People walk around and they will expressly state how bored they are of life.
Yeah.
That must be a pleasure to be bored of life. Right? Because there are some people who have not a chance of knowing what that feeling is, that contentment. Because their surroundings are so... Yeah, we have so many people walking around like, oh, I'm so bored. Well, why? How can you be bored? You live in the day and age where all information is at your fingertips. You've never had more of a selection of content to consume. Irks me. Ticks me off.
See, I think it'd be... Well, the different ways of looking at it. On one hand, you could say being bored is a good thing because it means that, you've essentially fulfilled all your obligations. You're just not sure what to do. But on the other hand, if you're always bored, that would be a terrible state to be in.
There's a Henry Rollins quote where he's like, there's no free time. There's no downtime. There's only lifetime. Go.
Yeah.
I love Henry Rollins. Shout out. If you like Henry Rollins and Black Flag or anything that's related to Henry Rollins, give me a shout out on the Insta. I own a couple of his poetry books. If you're really into that. Some people hate it, but I like it. Anyway, mind you, I'm also in a very cynical mood. So when I might go on a few critiques about society here in a second.
Ooh. Does it depend on which quotes I read?
Yep.
Well, I got a lot of them. Let's see here. Well, so Proust, his big emphasis is on senses, memory, and intellect. So this quote is on page 19. It basically goes this. It's an illustration of the fact that pretty much everything, all our perceptions are in our mind. So he goes, quote, even the very simple act that we call, quote, seeing someone we know.
Oh, I just read this one. Thank you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to cut you off.
Yeah. Mid quote.
Yep.
All right. For those of you out there who are frustrated by Beau's interruption of the quote, I'm going to start over. It says, even the very simple act that we call, quote, seeing someone we know is in part an intellectual one. We fill the physical appearance of the individual we see with all the notions we have about him and of the total picture that we form for ourselves. These notions certainly occupy the greater part. You look at me like you want me to talk. Okay. So basically what I took from that is like, yeah, essentially, if you think about it.
Hold on. You just yelled like right there.
Can I continue?
Yeah, you just loud.
Well, you can edit it. You're the editor.
I know, but still.
Yeah, it just kind of goes to the idea that, we don't actually know people. We just know them through our perceptions of them. Like, I don't know you because I'm not in your body. All I know is my perceptions of you.
Exactly. There are two, or at a time, between one person and the observer, there are two different individuals. I am two different people. I'm different when I'm by myself, and then when I'm with Brett, I'm somebody totally different. And he perceives me as somebody totally different. Our definitions are never defined by, simply who we are, but by our actions, I guess. It's kind of a devastating thing to realize that most of your social interactions are just complete shams of the mind. You can never truly know somebody, no matter how deeply you connect with them.
No.
You die alone.
Oh, that's interesting. I haven't heard from him in a long time. That's a guy I couch surfed with like 3 years ago. Probably a butt dial.
Maybe he wants to couch surf with you.
Maybe. I feel like, yeah. Oh. Well, he clearly didn't leave a message, so.
Oh, well.
I'll text him back. But yeah, it's like, yeah, you at the end of the day, you really only know yourself.
It's so
and
scary.
even that's like a ongoing process.
Yeah. I question who I am almost on a daily basis,
Yeah.
among other things. Continue. You got another one?
I do. I have one that I know you're going to like, Beau, because you're an emotional guy.
Yep, let's go.
So
I promise I won't cut you off this time.
Pinky promise?
Sure.
So this one is all about like Proust essentially values emotions over facts.
Yeah, here we go.
It's right down Beau's alley. It says, quote, facts do not find their way into the world in which our beliefs reside. They did not produce our beliefs. They do not destroy them. They may inflict on them the most constant refutations without weakening them, and an avalanche of affliction or ailment succeeding one another without interruption in a family will not make it doubt the goodness of its God or the talent of its doctor. It's from page 151. It's basically what it's getting at is like facts don't really, in and of themselves, if people feel a certain way, they're not going to change their feelings based on the facts.
No, because that's not how that's just not how people, especially in terms of like politics. Right.
Well, this may be where we disagree, but well, here's the thing. I think people can feel a way and they'll justify it using
their own logic that makes them feel comfortable. Yes. We live in our country. We're in a weird time where everything is just completely split. That's like factioned off. Where if I were to present somebody what I deem are facts, no matter if it's just from like the Pew Research Center, they're gonna, someone's gonna be like, well, you can't just like throw out terms, or something like that. Like I hear that a lot by people.
Just like that?
Yeah, some people that I talk to, they sound just like this because they're just so angry. And they're just ignorant. They don't understand nothing.
Well, I think what it is
it's like they need that vindication. They're so convicted. They have so much conviction in their beliefs that if something were to come around and was a clear, cold fact of life, they would simply they would turn the other way because it's just convenient for them to believe the lies that they for so long have built into their brains.
I would say big picture that's true, but I think there are
I just
we what was that?
up a stick and call me Jim.
What? You keep interrupting me.
Nah, I just lost all my quotes.
Okay.
Phone crashed.
You and I differ politically.
Yep.
I think it's an understatement.
There's a very big
but I would say big picture. Like, for example, I have facts and stats I believe support my side. You have facts that you believe support your side.
Mm-hmm.
I think what it comes down to, like the old saying, stats lie. You can make a graph say whatever you want. I just think what it is there are so many different measurements that you can find one to justify your opinion.
Yeah, I mean,
because there's always nuances to every study. Well, was it
Yes.
conducted this way? Was it conducted that way? Et cetera, et cetera.
I think it's also kind of a not so much a dangerous rabbit hole to jump into, but it's something that I would caution against is that I just had to burp. Breaking down things to its like codified meaning, right? Where it's like we can only distinguish reality through objective terms, like measuring things out, studying of how like like binary coding and stuff like that. People get in that trap where like our mind isn't free. We question free will. I do it all the freaking time. We want to go out and find like the scientific reasoning. So now you just more question whether you're just some biological husk with a cursed mind or something like that. Yeah, I don't know where I'm going with this, but it's something that I would caution people to only see things through facts and figures, because life is so much more complicated, and the facts and figures are only stemming from our brain, which probably could hardly even trust anyway sometimes.
Basically,
because we don't know.
At the end of the day, you don't trust anybody.
I don't trust
or
nothing.
anything.
No, not at all. That's what I'm getting at. I don't trust nothing.
No, I think, where I stand. I think we do need facts and figures as a basis, but life is not.
Yes,
that's not all life is. Life
Exactly.
is not black and white.
I'm not saying that there's.
I am a firm believer that there is an objective truth, but within that, there's a lot of gray area. Life is nuanced.
I think everything's a construct of the mind. No, but I'm not saying that I disinherit science. I read a lot of science and I read a lot of other crap, but like the experience of the individual is solely isolated.
Mm-hmm.
So like I like a balance of all things. If I'm reading Carl Sagan, then I'm probably going to read something like Proust afterwards, just to keep the balance.
Yeah. Boom. Speaking of that, I have a rather long quote. Would you like me to read it?
Is it a long quote? What'd you say?
Yeah, it's a long quote.
Let's hold off on that.
But it's one of my favorites.
What about I read this one?
Okay. We'll alternate.
All right. For what we suppose to be our love or our jealousy is never a single, continuous, and indivisible passion. It is composed of an infinity of successive loves, of different jealousies, each of which is ephemeral. Although, by their uninterrupted multiplicity, they give us the impression of continuity, the illusion of unity.
I'm gonna be honest. I really wasn't listening to the first part.
What?
Can you reread it again? I was looking at my long quote, see if I still want to read it, but I'm completely focused on this.
For what we suppose to be our love or our jealousy is never a single, continuous, and indivisible passion. It is composed of an infinity of successive loves, of different jealousies, each of which is ephemeral, although by their uninterrupted multiplicity they give us the impression of continuity, the illusion of unity. Sometimes I question, certain ailments and problems of my past relationships, whether I still feel them. You know what I mean? And I feel, and I bring them about in my own way and into my daily life still. Like kind of like a Proustian effect where something will trigger me into believing that,
This is a result of this.
Yep.
Yep.
And so now I have reached the state of like non-confrontational and disassociativeness and struggle because of like this, that, or the other. And I try and weave this narrative, and then I realize that the narrative is also broken. That, I don't know.
Yeah.
Gets me thinking. I'm not going to go on to this any longer.
I can see that. Within every emotion, you can break it down into smaller, like, segments, I guess. Smaller fragments.
Yeah. Yeah, you want to search for meaning. Like everyone, especially here, you see the meet cute and the, destined love of two people right? And then we want to think that our narratives that we construct in our own freaking heads, because we're so important, sarcasm, if you can't guess it, right, would have us believe that, we're destined to meet the person that we're supposed to be with the rest of our lives. When it's probably something a lot more scarier, just complete circumstance. So you have to find the two. You have to find the middle of the two things.
Mm-hmm.
I also found the asparagus quote.
Read it.
It's pretty long. Here's my favorite quote of all of Swann's way.
Ooh.
Asparagus, tinged with ultramarine and rosy pink, which ran from their heads, finally stripped and mauve and azure, through a series of imperceptible changes to their white feet, still stained a little by the soil of their garden bed. A rainbow loveliness that was not of this world. I felt that these celestial hues indicated the presence of exquisite creatures who had been pleased to assume vegetable form, who, through the disguise which covered their firm and edible flesh, allowed me to discern, in this radiance of earliest dawn, these hinted rainbows, these blue evening shades, that precious quality which I should recognize again when, all night long, after a dinner at which I had partaken of them, they played, lyrical of course in their jesting as the fairies in Shakespeare's dream, at transforming my humble chamber pot into a bower of aromatic perfume. Let's talk about love, loss, and memory, and how asparagus changes my piss.
I have to be honest. After eating asparagus, I kind of enjoy the odor.
You're just like this dude.
It's just like there's a little sweetness to it.
That's not what it's.
Now, to be fair,
To be there.
I kind of like the smell of gasoline too.
Freak.
So I'm not sure what this says.
I like the smell of cut grass and burning wood. And tobacco. Mahogany.
So the long quote I was thinking about, I'm going to end with it, but
are we going to end with the theme of the importance of the artist in terms of reality?
Well, this was the
realities?
novelist as the perfecter of humans, or at least portraying humanity and emotions.
I just want to make sure we have enough time to get that, because that's a big topic.
Mm-hmm. Oh shoot! I gotta sneeze.
Oh no!
Hold off.
You almost had it, ladies and gentlemen.
I almost had it. Well, I mean, to be fair,
if
I sneeze on here, it would probably blow their ears out.
Exactly.
But no, some other themes I would say. Let's see. I wrote a couple, but we don't have enough time for all of them. So he hit on the idea that, our relationships, especially the course of our lives, they come and go, and that people drift apart. So let me read this to you, see what you think. This quote: "What had begun for her earlier merely than it usually happens was the great renunciation which comes with old age as it prepares for death, ramps itself in its chrysalis, and which may be observed at the ends of lives that are at all extended, even in old lovers who have loved each other the most, even between friends bound by the closest ties of mutual sympathy, who after a certain year stop making the necessary journey or outing to see each other, stop writing each other, and know they will not communicate again in this world."
Things change, people change, feelings change too.
Yeah. Like, I've had people in my life who we were great friends. I thought we'd be friends for life. And then for one reason or another, we just stopped talking. And as time goes on, it gets harder to reconnect. And so I just kind of accept the fact that probably never hear from again.
Yeah. Unfortunately, I get really paranoid about those sorts of things. A lot of the times I realize how far away I've been in terms of distance from all my close friends, or in terms of when I was there, how distant. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like I was never really there, and that scares me. I don't know why, but I think about that like quite often. That I I need to reach out to this person, or it's not a big deal. My right ear just popped.
Were you imagining yourself being underwater?
Yeah, I know. My ears ring a couple times a day. I'm probably going deaf. No, but it's. I act sometimes as if it's such a big ordeal for me to drive 3 hours back to Kansas City. But in all actuality, 24 hours out of the day, I just miss out on 3 of those. I could sacrifice that. I don't know. I just know so many people that I just love still. Mm-hmm. It's like the quote from The Big Chill where he's like, "No, we were close for a short amount of time, a long time ago." That just freaks me out. And sometimes you think about how the last time there was one moment where it was the last time you and your childhood friends played together outside, didn't even know it.
Yeah.
I get that about like twice a year from people.
Yeah.
I think it's like one of the most quoted existential themes that people can probably grasp. And it still frightens me.
Yeah, I mean, like my best friend in high school, we kept in touch a little bit in college, and then I have no idea what happened.
Luckily, my best friend and I, he lives in South Carolina. We're constantly talking, or we're gaming together. But we make it a point, like if we're planning on gaming, I'm hardly gonna let anything get in the way, unless I have like some like work thing, like if there's like coaching issue or a family issue. But most of the time, it's like. Yeah, well, I think I'm gonna take up this space right here for like 6 hours.
Yeah, I mean, 2 points. I mean, one, I think, when you're growing up, you really don't think about that. Meaning, you're just always surrounded by your friends. You don't really have to think about the effort that's going to be required eventually to maintain the relationship. But once you really essentially get out of college and you realize that you do have to choose, in essence, which friends you want to keep in touch with. Like it does take a lot of work.
So much work. The amount of work it takes sometimes to be engaged. Oof, 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 bubble.
Yeah. You ready for another one?
Absolutely.
Kind of goes like this too. Just basically how, in our minds we create the idea of fate.
I was kind of stemming this earlier.
Yeah. So he writes, quote, "Because the different chance events which bring us into contact with certain people do not coincide with the time during which we are in love with them, but extending beyond it, may occur before it begins and repeat themselves after it has ended, the earliest appearances in our lives of a person destined later to captivate us assume retrospectively in our eyes the significance of a warning, a presage."
Yeah, I remember this. I remember that quote distinctly. Yeah. That was one of the ones that caught my eye. And that was, in technical terms, like if you look at Proust's writing, I mean, it's bracketed off with commas, semicolons, and run-off sentences and stuff like that. So it's really hard to get what the heck he's talking about because it's not user-friendly. He's not a user-friendly. He's not reader-friendly. But that was one of those moments where I was like, immediately I understand.
Yeah, every I don't know.
And that was one of the moments where I'm sorry.
You're good.
That was one of the moments that hit me where I was like, frick.
Yeah.
I know exactly what this is.
And maybe
I am embarrassed to have felt that.
Every blue moon throughout it, he'll throw out a zinger in there. It almost makes me wonder, like, if he's trying to replicate how, during life you have all this essentially gray space, but the interspersed are these moments that are crystal clear. That ring a bell.
Yeah. And I don't know, it just kind of makes you appreciate the. Sometimes you get the trapping of being angry once a relationship ends, like really angry, unappreciative, and it takes you a while, like in the quote, to see the bigger picture of it and to see the whole narrative as it formed, and then you think you get all sentimental, like and you try to give it more extra meaning and like some symbolic nature, as if it was supposed to happen because I accidentally turned to the left side and I spotted her, and it's like,
Yeah. Like
that's not
we
that's
try,
not accurate either.
we try to make order of things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But don't you think it's kind of beautiful though that in terms of like how people like loved ones or significant others, like we try and like break this narrative down.
Oh yeah. I mean, I think it's like regardless of if that's the way it happened or not, if we perceive it or convince ourselves that it happened, at the end of the day, that's all that matters.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes I think people are like really have the Jones for like this epic way of falling in love because that's how it is in like media.
Mm-hmm.
But that's never satisfying. And it never is what it's supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, as much as how to phrase it, as many movies as you and I watch, like, in all reality, relationships and films that's not really how things happen in life.
Nope. Hardly ever.
But they make great stories.
Absolutely. It's a good time.
But you know what? Let's talk about the artist. I think as I was paring my quotes down, I might have removed that one. So, you want to lead this?
So we're talking about how Proust's idea is that the artist is the most ultimate form.
Oh, I do have that on here.
Oh, yeah, then you need to read that.
Well, I think that was the long one.
Well, try and read a little bit of that.
No, I'm going to read this whole thing.
Oh, my God.
No, it's not like it's only 2/3 of a single page. This is going to mean nothing because our prior recordings are lost, but it's not going to be a 5-minute one.
Okay.
So his idea, actually, no, wait. Sorry, I'm confusing my quotes. This one's a little bit shorter. If this is the one you're thinking of.
Okay. I hope it is.
If it is, I'm going to finish with the super long one. So, he gives the idea that art refines reality by bringing the ideal of our minds to the forefront. So essentially, art as projecting ideals. He writes, quote, "Mother would try to use cunning and, if not to eliminate commercial banality entirely, at least to reduce it, to substitute for the greater part of it more art, to introduce it, in a sense, several layers of art. Instead of photographs of Chartres Cathedral, the fountains of St. Cloud, or of Vesuvius, she would make inquiries of Swann whether some great painter had not depicted them, and preferred to give me photographs of Chartres Cathedral after Corot's an artist, of the fountains of St. Cloud after Hubert Robert, and of Vesuvius after Turner, which made one further degree of art." So basically, instead of just giving, typically in the Western world, we think of a photograph as being the ideal because it's like presents things as they are. But his mother would, instead of getting a photograph, get a painting of it, because a painting is one further step removed. And so it's an ideal in the sense that it is a perfection of reality. Is this the quote you're thinking of?
No, but I mean, it's along the lines of that. It's not far off. It's just, that is a heavy theme. And there's like so many layers to that.
Can we get into what you were wanting to talk about?
It's pretty much to the effect of like the most true form of expression for his mother, for her to fully like appreciate a real place, is to see someone else's perspective. It's a very humanitarian look on nature, right? So like the only way you can truly see something is through the eyes of somebody else, not through the replication or fabrication of reality through it. So like a photograph, or if breaking it down a little in more simple terms, what you see with influencers when they go to like some tone deaf, gosh darn influencers who go to like a sacred space in a country that they have no idea of, just freaking weird form of colonialism over here. They go there and they like fabricate a candid photo, That's what for me, that's,
Yeah.
I know, like, I understand, like, Swann had no interpretation of that, but, like, that's how I break it down, is, like, even to his mother, when at that time they probably just took photos and stood there for, like, 20 minutes and didn't smile, and you had it in the background. Like, the focus is away from the actual place. It's on the people there saying, like, I conquered this at one point in my life, essentially.
Yeah.
But with the painting, with the painter, you get a calculation and you get the expression through their mind of how they want to not only get the geographical sense of the place that they're at, but also like the essence, you know? So it's like looking at a Monet painting, you see water lilies, right? And they're like, if you get up real close to it, it's just squiggles.
Yeah.
And it's not accurate, nor is it perfect. Like, it's outside the lines, it's rough. But when you step back, it is a nostalgic trip, right? There's smog running through it. Because in Monet's time period, you know, the industrialization of the modern world was happening. So nature was being, you know, kind of taken over a bit through that. But when we see it now, it seems so nostalgic, or it seems like a breath away for us. And that's what's beautiful about it, is that you not only portray something as simple as walking through a garden, but now it has a hidden layer between it.
Yeah, it gives it some
Between
added
you and the thing.
and
So
added
the observer.
emotion.
Yes.
Yeah.
Was that fine?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't know if that was the quote.
It's hidden. We can.
I'm almost thinking the long one is probably what you were talking about, but I can't remember.
It's the one with the novelist, where the novelist has the opportunity to tell the
that's my
highest
long
truth.
one.
Okay.
You ready for this?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So I would save this for the end. Maybe this will be the last thing, depending on how long we go, but I believe this is the one Beau was referring to. So I characterize this as Proust saying the novelist is a perfecter of humans, or at least portraying humanity and emotions in their purest form. Basically, it's Proust's MO. So, goes, quote, "These were the events taking place in the book I was reading. It is true that the people affected by them were not real, as Francois said, but all the feelings we are made to experience by the joy or the misfortune of a real person are produced in us only through the intermediary of an image of that joy or that misfortune. The ingeniousness of the first novelist consisted in understanding that in the apparatus of our emotions, the image being the only essential element, the simplification that would consist in purely and simply abolishing real people would be a decisive improvement. A real human being, however profoundly we sympathize with him, is in large part perceived by our senses, that is to say, remains opaque to us, presents a dead weight which our sensibility cannot lift. If a calamity should strike him, it is only in a small part of the total notion we have of him that we are able to be moved by this. Even more, it is only a part of the total notion he has of himself that he will be able to be moved himself. The novelist's happy discovery was to have the idea of replacing these parts, impenetrable to the soul, by an equal quantity of immaterial parts, that is to say, parts which our soul can assimilate. What does it matter, thenceforth, if the actions and the emotions of this new order of creatures seem to us true, since we have made them ours, since it is within us that they occur, that they hold within their control, as we feverishly turn the pages of the book, the rapidity of our breathing and the intensity of our gaze. And once the novelist has put us in that state in which, as in all purely internal states, every emotion is multiplied tenfold, in which his book will disturb us as might a dream, but a dream more lucid than those we have while sleeping, and whose memory will last longer, then see how he provokes in us within 1 hour all possible happinesses and all possible unhappinesses, just a few of which we would spend years of our lives coming to know, and the most intensive which would never be revealed to us, because the slowness with which they occur prevents us from perceiving them. Thus our heart changes in life, and it is the worst pain, but we know it only through reading, through our imagination. In reality it changes, as certain natural phenomena occur. slowly enough so that if we are able to observe successfully each of its different states, in return, we are spared the actual sensation of change, end quote. Is that the one you're referring to?
Yes. Now,
we finally got to it.
yes. Now, yeah, it is so wordy. And it's like such a breath taker. But not because it's like, oh, it's amazing, but because it's so freaking huge. Granted, there are some moments in there where it's like, oh, yeah.
I feel like it's wordy, but not necessarily unnecessarily wordy as other parts of the book.
If our listeners were to like fully grasp it, I think we would have to like stop, pause, break it down, stop, pause, break it down. But
why don't you sum it up for us, Beau? What's he saying here?
No, I won't sum it up. Let me see that.
I think basically he's saying that a novelist can depict humanity in one sense much better than actual human life.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to find the exact quote because it's in the gosh darn middle. Sorry, folks. This is one of the things that's just so irritating and so brilliant about Proust. There's a part here where he talks about soul as Here we go. The novelist's happy discovery was to have the idea of replacing these parts, impenetrable to the soul, by an equal quantity of immaterial parts, that is to say, parts which our soul can assimilate. So, for the novelist, he's not exactly trying to break down, like, he's not trying to be Darwin over here and break down, like, freaking, what is it? Survival of the fittest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Evolution and stuff. But he's trying to get down to where the soul of each man, whether you believe in the soul or not, but like that subjective thing that separates you and I into believing in something that is more created by a fellow human. So it's like trying to describe the human condition, not necessarily humanity as observed, but the human condition, what it means to have those feelings that we have and those feelings that are triggered through the material world. Yeah. That's what he's getting at. And that's what's true, right? I relate far more to Kerouac because of how he tells the story of his life, even though it's like probably 90% just fluff or an exaggerated version because he's always on speed and it's go, 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 and sentimentality, right? Mm-hmm. Far more than I do like any politician.
Yeah.
or any other, figure like that. So yeah, that's why I think it's important to read. And I think that's what people who have a hard time getting into English classes or don't see the point in reading. Yeah. It's just like, well, something is created for you right here and now.
Mm-hmm. Well, I remember, I had a professor in college. Yeah, he's actually one of my Spanish professors, but he was like a published poet, and I don't think he ever wrote a novel, but he was a fan of literature. But he told the class once, like, you can, like, fiction will teach you about life. And for the longest time, I'm like, that can't be real. But the older I get, the more I realize, like, novelists, they can give you different perspectives and describe human nature in a way that you wouldn't ordinarily, like, think about. And basically, in a nutshell, like, in describing somebody, they can give such a colorful description that it makes you think about things in your own life that you've never actually thought about before. So they may not be able to describe you perfectly to T, but they can describe the things that you've never thought about before that will lead to a better understanding of yourself and about other people.
And when you see this quote, like, just looking at it now, and once the novelist has put us in that state, comma, in which, comma, as in all purely internal states, comma. So at there, it's kind of like a freaking labyrinth over here with trying to, like, find the main sentence and then, like, wherever he's going off. But take out as in all purely internal states, like, once the novelist has put us in that state, every emotion is multiplied tenfold, in which his book will disturb us as might a dream, but a dream more lucid than those we have while sleeping, and whose memory will last longer. Then see how he provokes us in us within 1 hour all possible happinesses and all possible unhappinesses, just a few of which we would spend years of our lives coming to know, and the most intense of which would never be revealed to us because the slowness with which they occur prevents us from perceiving them. So you can pretty much simulate, grief through a novel.
Yeah.
Right. Because when you're going through grief, it's slow. It doesn't hit you right off the bat, but it's cold, it's calculated, and through the novelist, right? Mm-hmm. He's able to take their experiences, and you can simulate that. Yeah. So it's like a speed run of life. Boom.
Yeah, essentially.
Bam.
Yeah. Bada bing, bada boom.
Yeah. That was good.
That was good. Let me see. Anything else we want to talk about? Let's see. Well, let me just read a quote that I noted just for being beautiful prose.
Bet.
Completely unrelated except for it's Proust.
Slay.
Bells.
Sleigh
Bells, the band.
Oh. Yeah, I like sleigh bells.
Yeah, they're all right. So this is on page 360. This is kind of when he's describing the piano and music they're listening to. I just wrote down, I noted it for beautiful prose. This quote, "There are tones in a violin. If we cannot see the instrument and therefore cannot relate what we hear to our image of it, which changes the sound of it, so similar to those of certain contralto voices that we have the illusion a singer has been added to the concert. We lift our eyes, we see only the bodies of the instruments, as precious as Chinese boxes, but at times we are still fooled by the deceptive call of the siren. At times, too, we think we hear a captive genie struggling deep inside the intelligent, bewitched, and tremulous box, like a devil in a holy water basin. Sometimes, again, it is like a pure and supernatural being that passes through the air, uncoiling its invisible message."
I remember that. That's at the bourgeois dinner party.
Yep. Like I said, I just noted it because I thought it was a beautiful, beautiful quote.
Yeah, I mean, it's a manipulation of tones and sounds.
Yeah.
One equal parts devil, equal parts beauty, all parts necessary.
Yeah. So
yeah, you know what? In the process of reading it, I did not like it. But through further reflection, it is one of those books where you're like, yes, I'm glad I read it.
I would say, don't quote me on this. I'm not putting words in your mouth.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, if I'm to summarize your thoughts on this, is one of those things you didn't necessarily enjoy, but you can appreciate.
Yep. 100%.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So, we're on to volume 2. I believe it's called In
The Shadow of Young Girls.
Shadow of Young Girls, yes. If you're following along with us, in the Penguin edition, it's going to be a blue cover. We'll tweet that out.
Yeah.
Light thing, Beau, what else are you reading these days?
Right now I'm reading The Sun by Philip Meyer. We have a mutual friend who went to school with him, I think at Texas. He says that, funny story, he was supposed to do a lot. Part of their homework was to, present the book that they were wanting to write,
Yeah.
Technical, like step 1, step 2, rough draft, analysis, peer review, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Apparently Philip Meyer just didn't show up for weeks to class, and then he just randomly walks into the professor's office, and he goes, "Where have you been?" And he goes, "I've been with, on a reservation smoking peyote." And he passed him because he went and experienced exactly what he's wanted to write in the book.
Oh, really?
I was like, wow, that's pretty awesome. Anyway, his other big novel is American Rust, which I think that's the most popular one. But The Sun is devastating. It's brutal. It's a good cross between the Luminaries by Eleanor Catton and Blood Meridian.
Okay.
In terms of like what it's about, it's devastating. It's not as nearly as nihilistic as, or elusive in terms of narrative as Blood Meridian, but it's around that era and area.
Okay.
It's wonderful.
Yeah.
I highly recommend it right now.
Noted.
What are you reading?
Yeah, I am in the middle of Butcher's Crossing by John Williams. Gosh, I am loving it so much.
God bless him.
Oh my gosh. I picked it up in Chicago on my way out to Spain. So good.
Yep.
It is so good. I think Williams is, I'm not going to say probably at this point, for sure my second favorite author at this point of all time. So it's just, his prose is just absolutely gorgeous. I've been meaning to actually bring it into you because I don't think we have different. I think we have different copies of it. Do you have the New York Review books?
Yeah.
So even if you don't read it for a while, read the intro because it gives like a anecdote about Williams, like as a professor. Mm-hmm. It's very good.
Awesome.
But I'm reading that, and then I'm still in the middle of Dune. So
nice.
Dune, I'm not too crazy about, but
it's
whatever.
One of those kind of books.
Yeah.
I need to read it myself.
Like I said, I'm not a huge fantasy fan. I'm just reading it because, one, it's a hugely relevant, and then two, second part of the film comes out this year. So
yeah, fantasy books are hard for me because there's so much world building, and I'm just reading because I want to
all these weird names I have to like keep track of.
I just want good prose. I just want to have a transcendent experience reading. I can't get that sometimes when I'm reading freaking fantasy.
Yeah,
I'm so sorry for anyone who's like really. I know Tolkien's great. I've read Lord of the Rings when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I really want to read Lord of the Rings. I've never read it before. I think it's kind of a higher level than like Dune, because like Dune to me, when I read it, it's like this is what every single young adult book is like.
I don't know. I think Dune's main thing is that it's space messiah. Like that. I mean, I think it's Paul, right? That main character.
I believe so.
Yeah, he's really just like Jesus.
Yeah.
But like high on weird space dust.
Yeah.
Anyway, thank you for listening in. Fortunately.
Well, we finished a little bit early.
We did. I have tennis practice.
You play tennis, Beau?
I do now.
Yeah.
But am I
a pro? Absolutely not.
No. And would I fit in well with the characters of Infinite Jest?
Probably.
Maybe. Yeah, definitely. I would.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Some of the lower level ones.
Sometimes I told a kid once they should read Infinite Jest if they were really wanting to get into tennis and get better. I was like, yeah, you got to read Infinite Jest. And they looked at me and go, well, who's it by? It's like David Foster Wallace.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, I'll look into it. I go, please don't.
Yeah.
That was a joke. Hold on. But a parent caught me reading when I was first reading it. A parent at State, my first tennis season, caught me reading it. And I said, oh, it's about tennis. Yeah. And they're like, oh, I'm going to go buy that book right now. I was like, it's really not that much about tennis.
Yeah. Infinite Jest is an amazing novel, but not one I would recommend to the average reader.
Nor many casual tennis fans.
No.